Welcome to Political Reconstruction. I'm your host, Garrison Douglas. We got a great show planned for you today. We're going to be talking about the one and only 2014 midterm election. So we have a lot of good candidates, a lot of great fights going all throughout the country, especially in our toss-up states. You know, you have Arkansas, Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and it may not be a toss-up state right now, but I'm going to throw it in there right now, Kentucky. Kentucky is home of none other than Mitch McConnell, man who's been sitting in the same seat for such a long time, but he is being seriously challenged by a very strong lady by the name of Allison Grimes, and that's a very tight race right now. That can go either way. I personally somewhat feel that it can lean slightly towards Mitch McConnell, but I can't make any confirmations right now. I mean, because based off the fight, we're seeing a lot of information coming in every day that can turn us each and every way. So also, I'm joined by my co-host, Sophia Douglas. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you doing, Sir Garrison?
I am doing great. I'm just pumped for this election. It's election season.
It is. I believe 42 days.
42 days, November 4th. By the way, make sure that if you're not registered to vote right now in your states, make sure you register tomorrow. All right? We need to make sure that everybody, be it Republican, Democrat, Independent, no matter what you are, it's good. It's a very important thing to make sure you're participating in democracy. It helps formulate good discussion. And it makes for a great election if everybody's participating. So I already know. I was speaking with Sophia about this earlier. She has said it too. This is going to be a huge turnout for this election. Honestly, my dream one day is to see attendance voter turnout over 90%. That would be a dream I wish to see come true. But let's dive into this. Let's jump into these races. What do you say, Sophia?
I got to tell you, Trey. This has been almost kind of, although it hasn't been a very exciting midterm race. I think that there have been a lot of surprises that we've seen that people did not expect. I would say even the most seasoned and experienced political analysts probably could not have predicted some of the close races that we've seen. Namely, I don't know if you've been following what's been going on in Kansas, deep red Kansas. It looks as if that state may go blue.
Now, that's very interesting.
Yes. I first kind of got wind of the story, I'd say late summer, when I started hearing rumblings about trouble in the red state of Kansas. I don't know if you know, the current governor there is Republican Governor Sam Brownback. Very, very conservative guy, very conservative on all of the social issues and on the financial issues. But apparently, I guess the lesson is, don't take a red state for granted. Don't take a blue state for granted, whatever party you're in. If you drive that state into almost near bankruptcy, they're going to turn on you. That's what's going to happen. That's what we think is happening in Kansas.
Okay. So we have in Kansas, who's running in Kansas?
The current incumbent governor is Sam Brownback. And basically, the last poll that I had seen, I want to say it was like a Quinnipiac poll or something. I believe his Democratic challenger, I believe his name is Paul Davis. I heard that the last poll that I had seen had Davis up by, I want to say 5, 6, 7 points. Pretty healthy margin over Brownback. So Brownback is in trouble. And additionally, there was also the news that this happened probably sometime over the summer. Basically, it looks as if it's kind of a revolt against Brownback and what he's done with the state. About 100 GOP leaders have endorsed the Democrat Davis, and also another weird twist in that state. It looks as if it was a three-way race for the senator's race. Well, the Democrat successfully had his name taken off the ballot, so now it's a two-way race between the GOP candidate and there's an independent candidate who's also running. And it looks like that's a dead heat. Like, it's basically tied.
Okay.
So we've got basically an uncertain, once GOP safely held Senate seat, which may go to an independent. We still don't know who he'll caucus with. But again, he's an independent. He could caucus with the Democrats. He could caucus with the Republicans. We don't know. He is in Kansas. But still, the fact that a solid red state may lose a Senate seat and the governorship, that's a pretty huge deal. And I've also heard that the state is so broke, they've cut funding for a lot of basic services. And they're also saying that possibly within 2 to 3 years they could declare bankruptcy. So it doesn't look good for Governor Brownback. And it's just something I never thought I'd see in the history of that state. Never thought I'd see it.
Wow. Okay. So that's something we're going to all have to be paying attention to closely. Thank you for that, Sophia. What I want to do is, since we're now talking about governors, I want to jump into right now Georgia, my town where I'm right now, Georgia, my state. Love it. But Nathan Deal, it was almost seen as a given initially that he was going to win re-election. Georgia's a red state. And it goes into what you were saying earlier, Sophia. Don't take your state for granted. We have Jason Carter, young, energetic, advocate for the teachers, for family, for children, for the kind of a new, fresh start for Georgia, which I think a lot of Georgians are really looking for. They see, they look at Jason Carter next to Nathan Deal, and they see old and young. They see past southern Georgia, the ones stuck in the past, stuck in kind of southern plantation, cotton and all that kind of stuff. And then they see a young, refreshed Georgian Jason Carter, with a beautiful family standing up for teachers. And it's working for him. I'm not sure if you paid attention, Sophia, right now to the exact polling, but he's doing extremely well, much better than anyone else has done in the past at least 6 elections in Georgia for governor. Right now, he's, according to WSB TV, he's actually up in the polls by 3 points. So, I mean, that's phenomenal for a Democrat to be doing. That's unheard of in the near most modern history of Georgia. And then you also have Michelle Nunn. That's someone else I really want to concentrate on because as a Southern Democrat running for the Senate, she's had to run to the center, if you agree with me, Sophia, to make sure that she is not seen too much as a liberal, and especially seeing if she's too close to the president. It's something that has been done many times with Southern Democrats. It's not a surprising thing. People want to turn it into the president being toxic, but it's not. It's simply a Southern Democrat doing what a Southern Democrat does. This is nothing new. We see it in Kentucky right now, which started at the very beginning. And Michelle Nunn is really stepping her game back up after kind of citing. She had her with Michelle Nunn, there was a concern of her being too conservative, leaning too far to the right and not representing her base. She risked losing the base. So she had to step up and really side with the president. Republicans in Georgia hit her with it. So now she's trying to move her way back into the center. It doesn't seem like it's hurting her too bad, but it's still a toss-up. Do you have anything on this, Sophia?
I find this to be an interesting set of circumstances in Georgia. Like you said, pretty red state for a couple of generations. So I think the big difference with Georgia sets it apart from some of the other red states that may turn purple or blue within a couple of cycles. I think there's two things that make Georgia, specifically Atlanta, a little unique. First of all, both these candidates, let's just be honest, they have their last names on their side. Probably were it not for the fact that I'm not saying that they're not talented, strong candidates, because they are. They've run good campaigns, that they're pretty good on the issues. But the fact that their last names are Carter and Nunn definitely doesn't hurt. I think we do have to acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Right. And I do think more so, I think that from what I've seen, again, I'm not down in Georgia, but I've been following it a little bit, from the news. I don't see Jason Carter capitalizing on his grandfather's name as much as Michelle Nunn seemed to be capitalizing on her father's name. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's kind of what I saw.
Oh, no, I can definitely agree with you on that. There have been multiple ads that Michelle Nunn has done kind of touting her father, not necessarily saying that she is her father, but saying that her father has represented the state well. His work ethic has actually passed down to her, and that she will do the same exact thing. Versus Jason Carter, you rarely catch him in a photo op with his grandfather, who was Georgia's governor and the president of the United States of America. So I definitely got to agree with you that Jason Carter has not capitalized really at all. It's actually very rare to find a picture of those two together during this campaign at all. Right.
And so I definitely think that makes this a unique set of circumstances in Georgia. And then furthermore, another thing I would bring in, Michelle Nunn has to kind of, like you said, there's a difference, and I know we're going to get to it later, there's a difference between the red state Democrats versus the purple state Democrats. There is still a difference. Usually by the second term, the party that is in power, particularly the president, whoever holds the White House, their approval ratings are a little bit lower than they would like. So we're going to see just some generic distancing from the president. However, I will disagree with the term toxic. I would never say that President Obama is toxic anywhere, except for deep red states, the Dixie states. That's different. He was never liked in those states anyway. But I would say that Michelle Nunn has been in a particular situation, like you said, she was seen as being a little bit too close to Republicans, a little too conservative for her taste for the base. But on the other hand, she needs a big chunk of those black Democrats in Atlanta to support her, or she's going to have a shot. Because again, she is a Democrat in Georgia. She's only going to win so many, crossover votes. So she has to be very careful with the distancing herself from the president, from the Obama family in general. She can't alienate those black voters who support. She is going to really need them. So that's a big difference, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. And I have to agree with you on that, just wholly. Now, one of the things I can't help but notice is this. I'm not sure if this is a DNC strategy, because it seems like a very targeted and calculated move by Democrats as a whole. But it seems more that the Democratic Party is focusing really heavily on their resources towards gubernatorial races for the governorships in these toss-up states. States that have previously, like you said, been red states are really moving towards Democrats. Do you think this is Democrats trying to pull the same strategy that Republicans did back in 2010?
I wouldn't say that. I don't think there's a whole. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of similarities on that issue. I think the big difference. 2010 was a wave election. There was just a lot of anger with the Republicans, especially with the base, and the Tea Party had risen up. They were just very angry with everything they saw coming out of Washington and the new president, who they didn't like to begin with. And then, of course, usually in the midterm elections, the Democrats just normally don't turn out. The electorate looks much different. It's much older. It's much lighter. It's much less representative of the nation as a whole. So it's almost two different electorates that vote. So I think what is different from 2010 is that what's happening is Democrats see opportunities. I think when the demographics just started happening, particularly with Latino folks, they started seeing, when they saw these numbers, let's look at 2012. President Obama, obviously did not carry either Georgia or Texas. But he came about as close as the Democrats could come to getting, 50% of the vote as any Democrat has done in probably recent memory. And the big reason for that is, I'd say the Latino vote that is growing and African American vote. And I think Democrats have seen that if they can play on these changing, growing demographic changes in these states, that's where they have their opportunity. So I think that's what they're doing. They're looking beyond this election. So even if they don't win in these states, they know that there's something that probably could happen in, say, 2016 or even 2018. They know this, and I think they're getting ready for it. And again, it's about opportunities. They didn't see those opportunities 4 years ago or even 8 years ago. So I think that is the difference, Garrison.
Okay. And kind of speaking towards the future, more specifically right now, though, I want to kind of touch on Governor Rick Perry from Texas. I believe we mentioned it on a previous episode of the show, but he was facing legal issues. He was actually indicted on multiple felony charges, if I'm not mistaken. I think 3 felony charges. Initially, when everything was occurring, Governor Perry had come out strong, saying that it was partisan attacks on him, that he was fully within his rights in the law to do what he did. He basically, for those of you who don't know, he actually threatened a veto of basically funding towards the Public Integrity Unit in Texas to a specific DA's office. The DA who ran that office had actually been arrested for DUI. She had a DUI incident. His threat was if she did not resign, he would veto the funding towards her Public Integrity Unit. So, to me and many people, that's against the law. That's abuse of power, and that he should be punished for it. But someone who was as strong as he was, with immigration, border security, he was everywhere in the news. If a lot of you don't remember, everywhere. You couldn't turn on the television without seeing Rick Perry's name somewhere. And all of a sudden, he just disappeared. He disappeared. I don't know where he went. But with major issues with ISIS, Syria, foreign policy, for someone who's seriously considering running for the presidency of the United States again, these are issues that he should be tackling, or at least sampling some words, phrases, putting some poll samples out there. Nothing's going on from him. So it puts something in my mind that maybe there's more to this whole legal issues he has than he led on to believe. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. There's not really a huge discussion on that, but just kind of like a little tidbit. I wanted to kind of spark that discussion. Maybe something we discuss later on in another episode. One thing I also want to discuss, since I'm also talking about 2016, is Dr. Ben Carson. Someone who has kind of really been in and out of the news, in my opinion. Really more, I would say actually more out of the news than in. But recently today, he actually, alongside Jim Webb, he also did the same thing as well, but announced that it's a strong likelihood that he would be running in 2016. So right now, it looks like we're really starting to see the landscape of who's going to be running. And I don't know, Sophia, if you have anything on this with, specifically with Jim Webb. What are your thoughts with the whole Jim Webb story?
Yeah, I actually had just heard a little bit of news about Jim Webb announcing that he's seriously considering the 2016 run. And I heard rumblings about him before, so I can't say I'm too surprised. Keep in mind, former Senator Webb was, I believe he was on Visa Press this weekend. I believe that's where he made that announcement. So, we'll see. It's still pretty early. I think possible contenders in either party, this is the time to kind of dip their toes in the water without having to put it all the way in and, get their feet wet. They just dip their toe in the water and see what what kind of ripples it brings, and then they see what happens and go from there. But they don't have to make any big decisions yet. They don't have to make a whole lot of investment. So this is the easy fun part. But what I would say about Webb, I think what we do see taking shape, we saw what happened. Let's make no mistake about it. Hillary Clinton has been enjoying the speculation and the attention that she's been getting these last 3 to 4 months, ever since her book will roll out. She's enjoying this. She keeps hinting that she's going to run, but yet she says nobody will know until the end of the year. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's the end of the year. And Hillary Clinton came to Iowa with former President Bill Clinton, and she gave a very bold, very campaign stump speech. Make no mistake, Hillary Clinton is running for president, and she's killing everybody in the polls, Republican and Democrat. Right now, she's a person to beat, and she's not even a formal candidate. So that says a lot. I think my concern, though, is that anyone, especially on the Democratic side, anyone who dares to run against her might feel intimidated. And that's what I don't want to see. Because no one has the star power that Hillary Clinton has. No one has the name recognition. No one has the history. I believe what I'm seeing, she's beating everybody by double, triple digits. And the same on the GOP side. They don't have anyone that could really seriously challenge her. Chris Christie, maybe. He could probably be the strongest challenger she could have on the GOP side. But, again, Hillary Clinton is the person to beat. And so I think it will be important to make sure we don't see a repeat of 2008. I think a lot of people didn't really know who Barack Obama was. And he kind of came out of nowhere. But once he caught fire, he became kind of the antithesis to Hillary Clinton's kind of centrist, more hawkish reputation, and especially on her Iraq war vote. Now, there is no Barack Obama, but I think that having guys like Webb in there to challenge her, maybe from the center, and with current Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, he would challenge her on the left. I think that she's going to need those challengers. We need to have a hearty debate in the primary. We can't have a coronation on the Democratic side, and that's what it looks like it's shaping up to be right now. And I just don't think that's healthy for the country.
Agreed. I have to agree with you on that. And one name that I also want to throw out there is also Senator Elizabeth Warren, someone who I favor quite a bit, mainly because I feel like she speaks a lot to younger people's issues, specifically with college loans. I think she's a huge advocate for that, and I honestly feel like with the amount of passion that she shows for it, that's something that won't escape her. That's something that she won't ever turn away from. But we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to quickly, before we ended the show, kind of throw out kind of like a hypothetical question out there. And I wanted to ask you, what if Republicans are to take over the Senate? What do you see the next 2 years looking like for the president?
That's an interesting question now. I haven't given it much thought because, like I said, 2 or 3 months ago, I would have had a more serious conversation about this. I'm not so sure that's going to happen now. Given some of these toss-up races and surprise races that look like might be going Democrat, I don't see them taking the Senate. I just don't see it happening. But hypothetically, if it did, I just see it. I don't see anything really good happening. I mean, it's possible John Boehner can control his Tea Party caucus. That's possible. There might be some movement on immigration reform. He has hinted. But anything else, given how they seem to be still just very obsessed with Benghazi and a whole host of other issues, and, the impeachment light, and all these investigations, and I just feel like it would be a government shutdown every 6 months. That's my fear. So I don't see it being a good thing. Not with this party. Not with this party. And I also see it being a replay, but even worse than probably Bill Clinton's second term. Because everybody who knows, history remembers that President Bill Clinton, and there was a lot of drama going on in that White House. Let's just say that. There was. But even with all of that, the Republicans went after him hard. And then once we saw the Lewinsky scandal, it was over. And again, the voters didn't like that. They didn't like that. And I think that the impeachment, that was the one thing that saved President Clinton, is the impeachment. I think voters took that out on the Republicans. But I think if this were to be a Republican Congress, like in both chambers, I think it'd be disastrous. I really do. The only way it wouldn't be is if somehow they managed to find a whole bunch of centrist, moderate Republicans to get elected, and that doesn't look like it's happening. Just doesn't look like that's the case.
Okay, and I have to agree with you. I don't see it as a likely possibility that they'll take the Senate, but I do have to agree that you're right that if it ever did happen, that we're not going to see anything good come from it. No,
I don't. Like I said, I'm being generous. When I hear John Boehner talking about immigration reform, and again, a piecemeal approach, nothing comprehensive, and obviously the issue of amnesty, that's off the table. They don't want anything that even looks like amnesty on there. So that's, again, I'm probably being really optimistic talking about that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
12% approval rating. It's just very unpredictable at this point. But again, I would say it looks like that may not happen.
No, I have to agree. But that is actually all the time we have. Again, this is Political Reconstruction. I'm Garrison Douglas alongside Sophia Douglas. Please go on our website, www.politicalreconstruction.com, for past episodes. Also, check out our social networking sites. It gives you all the most up-to-date information on what's going on the air and behind the scenes. Again, this is Political Reconstruction. I'm Garrison Douglas. Have a great evening. Good night.